Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, right now, this time of the year, there aren't many people fishing. I recently talked to my great friend Russ Eddy, who I told you before had sort of shifted his activities to climbing all the trails that exist in northern New York. And I said, Russ, you had told me as you do these trails that you're finding places along the rivers that you want to fly fish for trout. I says, have you done any of that in the last month? And he said, no, I actually haven't. I put all the fly gear away. And I think this has been the case with so many people. They've either had to get their boat ready for winter and get it wrapped and so forth, or, you know, they're just not out fishing. It's not what people think about right now. But we do have some good fishing still in open water. Just be aware that bass fishing has ended now. But there's still trout fishing and pan fishing. You know, if you can get to some of these places and have something that you can get out on the water, and remember, as long as it's wet water and not ice, you've got to have a life vest on whenever you're on the water right now. That's for your own protection. I can't say anything more than that. That's really a big point. But I think right now, talking about this, it's important. I have an opportunity now to pass on certain things and certain ideas that I have and things that have taken me a whole lifetime to learn. And I'm thinking, what tips can I pass on to people? And I think one of the most important things when you're a beginner fisherman, what do you need to learn? I think the most important thing of all is learn your species. Every one of those species have different habits. They all have to do the same things. They're all going to need food and they need to find cover. But for example, learning how to read water and know what part of that water, if you don't have graphs and you don't have all the new electronic stuff, and most of us still don't, if we're going to read water, we need to know in that water where the species of fish that we're fishing for is going to want to stay. You know, and reading a trout stream is much different than when I'm trying to figure out where the walleyes or the smallmouth bass might be in a body of water. And it's really important that you get to know this. And how are you going to do that? In most cases, I think it has to come from experience, but just being so observant when you're out there on the water. Another tip that I did want to pass on is I believe it's so critical to learn how to cast. You know, that's really important. And the aspects in casting are, number one, you know, the type of rod that you use. I because of the brain injury I had when I was in the Navy, I have a hard time holding on to the rod. So I can't cast one-handed like so many people do. I have to use two hands. And what does that mean? You need a rod that has an extension of the handle behind where the reel goes in. That's really important. But I also want to tell you that a key to anything like this, if you're going to cast one-handed, is your hand strength. That's really important. You know, they talk about the great home run hitters, and it's not that they have to be muscle-bound and look like they got bulging arm muscles and so forth. It's more a function of the strength in their hands. And that's why some of these great home run hitters, they might not look like they're he-men, but they have that instant strength in their hands, and that's really critical in fishing, I believe. So these are a couple tips that I wanted to pass on today. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.